No, it's not Photoshop. 27 movie bloopers no one noticed. Making a film is a complex process that involves months of study, planning, and execution. Despite the fact that the director and his staff are very talented, they are nonetheless capable of making mistakes. Even the most thorough study sessions may miss something. Ruined takes, mangled lines, and pure insanity diminish the brilliance of these great films. We've chosen the most fascinating ones for you. Lord of the Rings. Aside from Merlin, King Arthur's friend, Gandalf the Grey is possibly the most renowned wizard in all of pop culture. He has the ability to create objects out of thin air, shoot light, and summon huge evil fighting eagles. Sir Ian McKellen is wearing a wristwatch in this photo, indicating that he can travel across time. Gandalf seems to have dabbed with dark magic and chose to time travel to get all the current items. Despite this gaffe, the film grossed $3 billion at the box office. Pirates of the Caribbean. We can't really blame the filmmaker in this case. It's not his fault. The film is a massive collection of amazing effects, sophisticated situations, and magnificent images. But he has another blunder you may have overlooked until now. Apparently, a man wearing a cowboy hat can be seen aboard the boat in this photo and several others. Even though the film is set in the 18th century in the Caribbean, and cowboy hats didn't exist at that time. Back to the Future. In the second edition of the iconic series, we join Marty on a journey to 1955. He must preserve his parents' relationship and avoid having his birth nullified. Of course, he does much more, such as becoming the star of a prom party. A connoisseur may note when he plays the guitar that it's a Gibson ES 345 model, one of the most renowned of all time. What was the blunder? This specific model was released in 1958, 3 years after the year depicted in the film. Whoops. Braveheart. Okay, we've established that kilts didn't exist in 1300, but Mel Gibson is at the heart of yet another blunder. You can see wounded and savage Highlanders chatting with William Wallace in this shot, right? Sure, but don't overlook the man in the upper left corner dressed in a jacket and baseball hat. These situations occur when the film is behind schedule and the filmmakers don't have time to reshoot some sections. As a result, several unwelcome visitors appear in the scenes. Even though it's amusing, it makes sense. American Sniper. Clint Eastwood's never-ending strength of spectacular cinematic performances affected an entire generation of individuals. He decided to try his hand at directing when he was a little older. American Sniper is one of his greatest works, yet he made a little error. In the moment when Chris Kyle is hugging his infant, it's clear that she is dead and limp. There's nothing wrong with it, it's only that they filmed the scenario using a doll. Cooper can even be seen manipulating the baby's arm with his thumb. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. A film about laughter and humor is likely to include some hidden bloopers. Willy Wonka leads the youngsters through the magical chocolate factory while making us laugh a million times. He chooses to raise his countertop at the part in which a candy store owner sings a song. That's not unusual, is it? Of course, it isn't that he doesn't nearly punch a small girl in the chin. Mike Tyson or Willy Wonka? Braveheart again. Mel Gibson's career is littered with iconic roles. Among these incredible film appearances, Braveheart is perhaps the finest. There he portrays the famous William Wallace, who personifies the Scottish Highlanders' battling spirit and unyielding revolt. So it's only natural that he wears a kilt, a typical Scottish outfit, right? Not quite. The film's set around the year 1300, yet kilts first appeared in Scottish society in the 16th century. They nailed it, give or take a couple hundred years. The Hurt Locker. The Hurt Locker is an incredible suspense thriller that penetrates our heads and keeps us on the edge of our seats. We get to observe the adventures of guys during the Iraqi War and the perils they confront by following a bomb squad. When one of the characters is remarking about someone on the street, he says, "I'm going to put this on YouTube." What's the issue? The film takes place in 2004, while YouTube was founded in 2005. Bomb squad personnel who travel across time? Please sign us up. Django Unchained. What do you get when you combine Quentin Tarantino's filmmaking skills with the acting prowess of Samuel L. Jackson and Jamie Foxx? Of course, it's an award-winning film. As a result, such a fantastic film should be free of blunders, right? Obviously not. Jamie Foxx wears John Lennon-esque glasses throughout the day to seem cool. What seems to be the issue here? Well, nothing exceptional. It's only that the sunglasses craze began in the 1920s. In the Untamed West, they were just a medical gadget for those who suffered from sunburn. Pretty Woman. Julia Roberts is seen here in one of the roles that characterized her career. Because of the film's incredible simplicity, it's been hailed as one of the finest works in recent history. Despite its brilliance, the film has one of the most amusing bloopers of all time. A rupture in the space-time continuum. When Julia is having breakfast, she seems to be eating a croissant, but when the camera returns to her, she's eating a pancake. Most bloopers include time travel, but this one's incredible. Dirty Dancing. Fashion may be difficult to define in the conventional sense at times. This is mostly because of the difficulty historians and others have in distinguishing between the look and popularity of clothing eras. The same reason created this Dirty Dancing blooper. Bean is dressed in jean shorts due to fashion discrepancies. This may seem commonplace, but they simply didn't exist in the 1950s. This specific outfit became popular in the 1980s, not previously. Perhaps the filmmaker had difficulty grasping the specific subject. The Wedding Singer. Inconsistencies in fashion seem to be the focus of this list. Drew Barrymore is happy with her trendy hairdo in this clip from The Wedding Singer. It may be popular today, but it first debuted in the 90s, and the film set in the 1980s, and everything else appears to match the period. One idea holds that Drew was cast considerably later than the other members of the team. As a consequence, there's no time to wait for it to get longer. That seems possible. My Girl. This film is notable for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, it's been considered one of the finest family films of all time. It also includes Macaulay Culkin's first actual kiss in his life. There are also a few minor blunders. One of them is about the scene in which Vada shows her mood ring and explains what it does. The main issue here is that mood rings were introduced in 1975, while the film takes place in 1972. Regardless, the film is excellent because such a little blunder may happen to anyone, but it's still hilarious. Captain America: The First Avenger. What's with all these heroic blunders? Perhaps the director is a genetically created guy who doesn't comprehend how to stick to the deadline. Peggy Carter has an important role in the film, but something's wrong with her hair. Sure, it's fantastic, but she couldn't serve in the Army with that hairstyle. Why? During World War II, the official U.S. Army and Navy regulations required all ladies to wear their hair off their collars. Shoulder-length hair just doesn't work in this situation. The Informant. Even though Matt Damon is recognized for his flexibility, he was not immune to becoming a part of a blooper. He's actually rewriting American history as a former vice president turned informant. When Matt and the other actors travel to the golf course in the film, they all wear brand new Nike sneakers. The film's set in the early 1990s, while Nike only began producing golf shoes in 1996. As a result, they may have desired to shorten the duration for fashion reasons. Still, he seemed to be in good spirits. The Doors. Val Kilmer was cast in the difficult position of portraying a dead person. The stakes were raised even higher when he was cast as the one and only Jim Morrison. His performance was excellent once he prepared for the film, although there is one little flaw. In various situations, he's seen sporting a Ray-Ban type from the 1980s. Not only did Jim Morrison die in 1971, but the film is set in the 1960s as well. Couldn't you simply go with the spectacles he always wore? Doesn't seem to be that difficult. Gladiator. Making a film about ancient Rome is always difficult. You must portray both the heritage and the amazing ambiance seen at such sites. Because there isn't much historical information regarding gladiators, performers had to dress appropriately. Russell Crowe, on the other hand, was not. Under his tunic, the Australian actor wore lycra shorts. Although some other errors may be overlooked, no one in their right mind would allow an actor to compete in gladiator combat while wearing cycling shorts. Okay, if it was a sci-fi time-traveling gladiator film, maybe. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. What could be more exciting than Indiana Jones solving riddles in ancient caves? Indiana Jones will be battling Nazis in 1938. Of course, a wonderful film would be incomplete without at least one goof. In this scenario, Indiana Jones is up against Nazi officials and troops wearing World War II honors. Although the Nazi Party existed for at least 2 decades before the outbreak of the war, the film was set in 1938, rendering such awards unavailable to Germans. The Hateful Eight. Tarantino's films have a peculiar quality to them. He's one of the most creative filmmakers, and many of his films have unusually captured situations that astound everyone. In The Hateful Eight, for example, when John Ruth sneaks behind Daisy as she sings about him, he destroys the guitar. Instead of a copy, the staff installed a $40,000 1870 guitar. As a result, Jennifer Jason Leigh's response is real since she's aware that the instrument is priceless. Tarantino is no longer acting, he's messing with reality. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Regardless of the version, this classic film seems to be full of bloopers. One of the earlier versions included an unintentional blooper with Grandpa Joe's attempts to fetch his son a candy bar. In the film, he seems to be bedridden and extremely ill, yet he nevertheless manages to get the golden ticket containing candy bar. Does this even make sense? Perhaps the filmmaker was preoccupied with something else and entirely overlooked story flaws like this one. They're always entertaining to watch. Pirates of the Caribbean. The British Navy may be seen wearing their elegant uniforms in one of the best pirate movies of all time. They were spectacular. But according to a historian, these exact outfits were first adopted in 1747. The inconsistency stemmed from the fact that the current king in the film is King George, who reigned from 1714 to 1727. This feature alone enables the creation of these outfits. That's just not fair. They might have just found another fashionable uniform from the period and worn it. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. In this Robin Hood film, the noble bandit communicates with Azim. Azim decides to demonstrate to him how a telescope works about halfway through the film. Because Robin Hood was a historical figure, we know the film's set around 1194. This information indicates that Azim will be unable to show him the innovation since the telescope wasn't created until the late 1600s. This explains the over a half-millennium gap which the directors may have predicted. Troy. Beautiful umbrellas provide shade for Paris and Helen as they stroll through Troy streets in the movie. Unfortunately, the image is inaccurate since parasols were created in ancient Greece in the 5th century BC. As a result, the filmmakers made the error of including the parasol in the movie 800 years before the general public actually used one. People sometimes see ancient Greece as a single continuous era, although it was really the confluence of many diverse civilizations. Schindler's List. Although this movie does an excellent job of showing the atrocities of World War II, it is not without its flaws. Several scenes in the detention camps show women with shaven legs, arms, and armpits, for 2 reasons. This just isn't feasible. For starters, no women in Europe ever removed their body hair, and we really doubt that they were permitted to do so in a concentration camp. Still unknown why this occurred. Couldn't they just stop shaving for a while? Raiders of the Lost Ark. Remember when we said movies were running late? We'll refresh your memory if you don't. Apparently, there are instances when the filmmakers and performers are clearly scheduled and must work extra hard to shoot all the sequences. This reduces their time spent reviewing the film to determine if anything's wrong. In this scenario, we can clearly see a man dressed casually in shirts and pants strolling along the Middle East in the 1930s. Perhaps he's a member of the crew and needed to use the restroom. Pride and Prejudice. When it comes to alterations in the film, they did a lot. There are other versions, and this one's set around 1790 rather than 1813 when the novel was released. Even though every director should have creative license, they must exercise caution when coordinating all the specifics. Lizzie is shown wearing Wellington boots in this film. However, they're inappropriate for the scenario. Why? They were issued in 1815, indicating that the filmmakers didn't conduct his research. Almost Famous. Almost Famous is and will always be one of the finest coming-of-age films, including everything a young person goes through while growing up. Even if it's fantastic, some people didn't do enough research to make it all work. One notable blunder is seeing someone backstage wearing a Black Sabbath shirt. Film set in the 1970s, yet the individual wearing the shirt is from 1997. This is a significant leap in terms of years, yet it still looks good. Only diehard Sabbath fans are aware.